Hello and welcome to Granada Reports. We are live for the latest across the Northwest.
Hello, thanks for joining us. On the programme this evening.
I remember thinking to myself for a split second, is this what it feels like to be dead?
The dream holiday complex that became a death trap. Tonight we mark the anniversary of the Summerland disaster 50 years ago.
These are some of the poignant last images from a family's home video. As demands for justice step up, we have exclusive new accounts of what happened on that terrible night.
I think people wanted to, for the want of a better term, brush it under the carpet. They didn't want to talk about Summerland, and people just didn't want to know.
In memory of Michael Causer, the teenager whose story inspired Liverpool's Pride celebrations, a legacy of hope, change and inclusion.
And one or two of us were lucky enough to catch a glimpse of the supermoon last night. Viewers in Scotland did a little better. What does the weather have in store for the rest of this week? You can probably guess, but the details are coming up.
We start by remembering those who lost their lives in the Summerland leisure complex on the Isle of Man 50 years ago tonight.
It was about this time in the evening when that fire broke out. 3,000 people were inside when one of the world's biggest holiday parks turned into a death trap.
It is a tragedy that's been rarely discussed over the years, but the memorial is a stark reminder. It bears the names of all those who died, 11 children and 39 adults.
They ranged in ages from pensioners to young children. One family lost 3 girls under the age of 13 on what they thought would be the perfect holiday. The last name here, Gary Martin Williams, who was just 11 years old. Well, incredibly, no one has ever been held accountable. It was only last month families were finally given the apology they deserved.
Well, memorial services near the sites just outside Douglas are due to begin shortly.
Our Isle of Man reporter Joshua Stokes was determined to bring this injustice back into the public eye. He joins us live from there now. Josh.
Yes, thank you and welcome to an incredibly poignant evening here in Douglas. 50 years ago, thousands of people were inside the island's esteemed leisure complex on the site behind me. Within minutes, a fire ripped through the building, killing 50 people and injuring many more. Well, tonight we remember them, and we begin by reflecting on an evening of tragic loss.
Taking shape, one of the most exciting holiday projects in the world. A complete complex of entertainment undercover.
It was supposed to be the jewel of seaside resorts.
Cascading waterfalls will use the cliff face as backing, and there will be terraces of entertainment. Even an artificial beach lapped by the waters of its own blue lagoon.
Summerland was billed as the biggest and best in holiday entertainment.
One of the most advanced projects in the world, this is an expensive idea. But the Manx believe in looking ahead with the most modern.
But that would all end on this day 50 years ago.
There's absolute pandemonium here. The Summerland is ablaze and blazing down. There's the fire is spreading very rapidly indeed.
Everybody started to move towards the door, and as you look round, it burst into flames, and that's when the sheer panic actually started as everybody made the way. But before I could even turn round to get out myself, I actually got trampled. And I remember thinking to myself for a split second, is this what it feels like to be dead?
The heat is starting to build up now, and we're a good 100 yards away, at least 200 yards away from the flames. It looks as if there's no hope for Summerland, without a shadow of a doubt.
This is the weekly ticket. So I used to buy a weekly ticket just about every week.
And this particular ticket is incredibly significant because of the date on it, isn't it?
7th of August, because as we know now that Summerland itself burnt down on the 2nd.
And presumably this would be one of the last tickets that they would have given out as well.
I would think so, yeah.
Maggie's story is one of thousands who were trapped inside. A few floors above, Jackie was stuck on a balcony at the centre of the blaze. She lost her mum Lorna and best friend Jane in the fire. Both were given a death by misadventure verdict, and Jackie's now travelled back to the island with a renewed purpose.
To get justice, that cannot carry on in the history books as death by misadventure. It matters, this matters. This was a fire that should not have happened. This was a building that was not safe, and we were wronged.
And that's an injustice still felt today, but one that the government here feels it cannot address.
I think we're going to continue to be open to listening to survivors and listening to their views. But as it stands today, there's no immediate plans to go back and reopen that inquiry. Certainly not without some more considerable thought as to what it is going to achieve.
But for some, that has continued to cause division. While government officials and members of the local council will be gathering at the memorial tonight, others have chosen to meet at what's left of the site.
Our elected representatives over 50 years should be ashamed that very few of them have actually ventured there to that site at that time, had the courage to do it.
Tina witnessed the fire from the cliffs above, and since then she's dedicated her time reaching out to those caught up in the catastrophe.
We've never forgotten you. There's nobody on this island that's forgotten the Summerland site and the tragedy that happened there, and we'll go on remembering.
This is a community remembering one of its darkest days, in services and ceremonies perhaps never seen in the years that came before. And despite unresolved injustice, this year has seen glimmers of light, signs that this disaster will not be forgotten, and renewed hope that the 50 people who lost their lives at Summerland may finally be remembered.
Josh, the images are shocking, the testimony is heartbreaking, and I guess it may come as a surprise to many that there's two different memorial services taking place tonight.
Yeah, that's right. It just shows that even now, 50 years on, there's still that feeling of injustice and divide surrounding this tragedy. The government, the local council, and some of the survivors will be meeting at the memorial, as we said, and some people are deciding to meet on the site instead. And I'm joined by one of those people now, Jackie Hallam. Jackie, you were just 13 years old when you were caught in that fire.
That's right.
50 years on now, how are you feeling today?
I feel really quite strange. The last time I was on the island on this date, on the 2nd of August, was in 1973, and that wasn't a good day. So today's been really difficult, but I have got my family with me, so that's made it a little bit easier today.
And you can see that the emotion is still there for you, even 50
Very
years
much so.
on. Just explain to us why you've decided that you want to meet on the site today instead of the memorial.
I didn't really have any decision to make. For me, I had to be at the place where they died, my mum and Jane and 48 other people. The site is where they died, and that's where I have to be. And to be honest, I've had no one from the Isle of Man authorities has reached out any support to me in 50 years, so I don't feel I've got any need to be at the memorial tonight.
And you've mentioned about your mum Lorna and your best friend Jane there.
That's right.
They were, of course, given a death by misadventure verdict, and that's something that you're campaigning to change, isn't it?
Absolutely so. The verdict was wrong. It was a perverse verdict. It doesn't match the evidence, and it can't go down in history books as death by misadventure as far as I'm concerned, and I will be continuing to fight to get that verdict overturned.
And you've met with the Chief Minister, you've spoken to him this week while you've been here. How has that been?
Yes. Yes, the Chief Minister was, very... He was genuine. When we saw him in May, he listened to what I had to say and was interested. And this week, the service on Sunday was lovely.
And just very briefly, just to summarise for us what today means to you 50 years on from what happened?
It's just a time to remember those that lost, but it doesn't end here for me.
Well, Jackie, thank you so much for speaking to us, as ever. I know you've featured in a lot of our pieces leading up to this, so thank you very much. Now, on the night of the fire, members of the emergency services all came together to do what they could during the tragedy. Alan Christian was driving the first fire truck on the scene that night, and he's been reflecting on what he described as the hardest night of his career.
We got a 999 call, which I think I'm right in saying was from a boat out in the bay, and it called us to a gorse fire which was behind Summerland. We could see the fire over in the distance, but when we got about halfway along the promenade, it became obvious then that the fire wasn't behind Summerland, it was actually in Summerland.
And when you arrived at Summerland, what were you thinking when you saw the scale of what you had to deal with?
By the time we got there was no way we were ever going to save that building. You could actually see the flames moving across the face of the building. It was burning that quick. We got as yet to work up on the first floor where the fire started. The fire was so intense at this stage that it had no effect on it.
Well, there's fire brigade at the top now. There's another fire engine coming along. Here comes the police now. Now the problem is now it's really belching away.
And the roof was made of Oroglass also, which was dripping plastic, burning plastic down onto people.
And there was no real way for these people to escape either.
When the firemen got there, they found that the exit doors were chained and padlocked. And as people got trapped down below, they couldn't go back up because of the fire, and they couldn't go back up because there was more people coming down. So in the end, when the firefighters actually got in there, that's where they found a heap of bodies by the doors and all the way up the staircase.
The fire engine has just arrived. Well, the fire people are here at the present moment in time. People are calling all over the place, looking round for children, and families are split up.
This is where they were bringing the bodies out and putting them down here. This is where I spent probably the first, certainly hour and a half, underneath this canopy where they were bringing casualties out. That was one of the main escape routes coming down through from all floors of the building.
It looks as if there's no hope for Summerland, without a shadow of a doubt.
Do you think there was any accountability?
No, there's a lot of people that should have been held accountable. I mean, the boys were fairly young, and you've got to take that into consideration. And I don't think for 1 minute they set fire to it to destroy the building. But when you look at the actual overall responsibility, the architects, I think they got away with it. The management of Summerland, the fire alarm wasn't sounding at all, and the young girl, as I understand it, in the control panel, she didn't know what to do with it. They must have been trying to put the fire out for half an hour before they called us. If we'd have been called at 20 to 8, I'm still convinced today that we would have just extinguished a plastic kiosk on the first floor, Crazy Golf, and the next morning there would have just been a fire report on the chief officer's desk saying we turned out to Summerland and we extinguished a plastic hut.
And why do you think this is a fire that's been forgotten by so many people?
And I think people wanted to, for the want of a better term, brush it under the carpet. They didn't want to talk about Summerland, and people just didn't want to know. The government didn't really do an awful lot. I mean, look at the site over there now. It's an absolute disgrace. Our Chief Minister has now made an official apology to the people, which is a start. The people who have lost relations are wanting to overturn the misadventure verdict. And I can see why. You know, it's not misadventure. You know, if it happened today with corporate responsibility in that, I think the outcome would be totally different.
What does the 50th anniversary of this tragedy mean to you?
I don't dwell on it. I think, like most firefighters, you've got to accept what's happened. It was our job and you just had to get on with it. So it doesn't keep me awake at night, but I do think about it.
Yeah, shocking memories on the saddest of anniversaries in the Isle of Man tonight, and we'll be going back there before the end of the programme.
OK, in other news now, and an investigation's underway after a woman from Burnley who was serving a life sentence for murdering her newborn baby was found dead in jail. Rachel Tunstall died yesterday at HMP Style. The Prisons and Probation's Ombudsman will carry out an inquiry.
A 6-year-old boy from Lancaster who's already climbed 12 of the tallest mountains in the UK has set himself a new challenge. Oscar Burrow is raising money for Darien House Children's Hospice in Chorley. Now he'll be trying to scale the highest peaks in Wales, England and Scotland in just 24 hours. Yeah, good luck to you, Oscar. If anyone can do it, you can. Now, you might have seen on Granada Reports at the weekend those lovely pictures from Liverpool Pride.
Yes, the event takes place around this time every year, timed in tribute to the teenager Michael Causer.
Yeah, Michael was murdered when he slept at a house party in Huyton. It's thought he was targeted because he was gay.
And this evening, on the 15th anniversary of his death, a vigil is underway in his memory. Tim Scott reports.
A vigil for a teenager so cruelly taken away. Michael Causer's family joined with members of the public, councillors and community workers this evening at a pavilion unveiled in Michael's name in a park in Huyton. It marks 15 years since he died. An out gay man, Michael was just 18 years old when he was savagely beaten at a house party before his bleeding body was dumped in the street. He suffered severe brain damage and died in hospital 1 week later. His family are convinced he was murdered because he was gay, and they set up a foundation in Michael's name to address homophobia and hate crime.
Hate crime and the reporting of hate crime has continued to increase across the board, be it race, gender and sexuality, or indeed a worrying increase in transphobic hate crimes. So it shows there's still work to be done to try and get society to become more accepting of people just being themselves.
Rachel Jones is from the One Knowsley community group, in whose headquarters the pavilion stands. She's happy that Michael's home borough of Knowsley is honouring his memory on the 15th anniversary of his death.
It's fantastic that we're now bringing Michael home with a real focus within the borough of Knowsley, which is Michael's home, it's his family's home, this is his community. So bringing Michael home to start those new conversations that we absolutely will not tolerate hate within this borough, within our communities.
Landmarks across Knowsley will be lit with rainbow colours tonight to mark the 15 years since Michael was murdered. It's hoped his legacy will lead to tolerance and respect and an end to hate crime. Tim Scott, ITV News, Huyton.
Yeah, remembering Michael. OK, here's what's still to come on the ITV News at 6:30 with Lucrezia.
A culture of cruelty, the verdict following the murder of a 10-month-old baby. Jacob Croucher's mother and stepfather are convicted over his death after a month-long trial. Donald Trump is indicted over his alleged attempt to overturn the 2020 presidential election, claimed to have fueled the January 6 riots. Now, soaring energy costs are now leaving millions of struggling households in the red. And come for free, the offer from Greece's Prime Minister to those whose holidays were cut short by wildfires. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
On to sport now, and the return of the Football League is almost upon us, with the action kicking off this weekend.
It's as if it's never been away. As we warm up for the new season, a number of our teams were at the official launch in Wrexham.
Sadly, their Hollywood owners didn't attend. However, our sports correspondent, David Chisnell, did.
Yeah, who needs Hollywood superstars the likes of Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney when we've got a stellar cast of our own here at the official launch of the new Football League season. You know, 65 days since the last EFL season ended. Its return is almost upon us. And with the Premier League not kicking off until next week, it's our teams in the Championship and Leagues 1 and 2 who are back in action this weekend. And 4 of those teams, Bolton, Stockport, Salford and Tranmere, have been here today. And I've been catching up with them. So close to going up last year. Yeah. That's got to be the aim, I presume, again this year.
Yeah, of course. We know there's a lot of pressure on us now. Last year was a successful season for us, winning the Papa John's and getting to the semi-final of the playoffs. And myself, I want to play in the Championship, but I want to play in the Championship with Bolton. So, yeah, that's the plan.
After coming so close last season, how much did you just want to get back on it?
Yeah, of course. Not long after the season finished, I think it was a couple of days, we had meetings, and I said to the gaffer during that meeting that I just kind of wanted to carry on going because the feel-good factor was there around the club and stuff like that. But he said it was important we had them 2 weeks rest, and it was good to have that rest. But then once you've spent so much time with the girlfriend, there's only so much you can tolerate. So I was buzzing to get back, to be honest.
Pre-season, love it or hate it?
Hate it. It's just that time of the season where you obviously have to get your fitness up and get ready for the season. But everyone's just itching for the season to get started, so obviously Saturday can't come quick enough now, really.
What's it like with an 11-week-old child as well?
It's obviously difficult at times. I might have moved myself into the spare room for a couple of weeks, but no, the missus has been absolutely fantastic. Starting to sleep through now, so it's helping just in time for the season, so it's fantastic at the minute.
We're here at Wrexham. Obviously, you had that epic battle with them to get into the Football League, which you won. What's it like being back?
It's all right. Looking forward to coming back here towards the back end of the season, and hopefully we've got it wrapped up by then. But yeah, it's always a good battle with us and them.
Could we see another battle between you two trying to get up out of League One this year?
It's done by then.
Well, the start of the season is always a time filled with big hopes, big ambitions. It's also when the fans dream of that Hollywood ending to the new football season.
Absolutely. David Chisnall in Wrexham for us tonight. Well, now let's go back to the Isle of Man. Those services will begin very shortly to mark the 50th anniversary of the terrible tragedy at Summerland.
Our Isle of Man reporter Joshua Stokes is still there, and this must have been a very tough day for those who were caught up in the fire, Josh.
Yeah, that's right, Gamal. Over the past few days, I've spoken with many people who've travelled to the island, survivors, bereaved families, and even members of staff who used to work in the Summerland complex. And their strength and resilience around this has been nothing short of remarkable. The pain and injustice that they continue to feel around the Summerland fire is just as strong today as it was 50 years ago, because this was a disaster that has caused so much trauma for people. And to travel to the island, to travel here and to see the site behind me in the state that it's in must bring it all back to the people that are coming here to obviously commemorate those 50 people who died here 50 years ago.
And Josh, it was known as the forgotten tragedy. It seems incredible that what happened at Summerland remained unknown to so many people.
Yeah, that's right, Lucy. This is, something that people simply just haven't spoken about. For many here in the Isle of Man, it's always been something that's present. It is, of course, one of the darkest days in Manx history, but for the last 50 years, many of those directly involved have remained silent. It's only been through the bravery of people like Jackie, who we spoke to, and other survivors from the night, where people are now starting to begin to learn about this tragedy. Because what happened here matters, and what happens here today matters. It matters to those people caught up in the fire. It matters to those bereaved families, some of which are here, some of which are still in the UK, and it matters to people in the Isle of Man. Those two memorial services will be getting underway in just over half an hour, as we said, one at the memorial and one here on the Summerland site, as communities from both the UK and the Isle of Man finally come together here this year to remember.
Joshua Stokes, our reporter in the Isle of Man. Of course, vital that lessons are learned from that terrible night in the Isle of Man. So for many, tonight is a time of quiet reflection there, with many tributes being paid to those who died.
So we leave you with one of them from Piper, John Struthers, playing the Manx unofficial anthem, Ellen Bannin.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We have had a lot of memories from you at home, actually, saying that you remember how there were appeals for people to come forward to give blood on the radio, people who have happy memories of Summerland before that awful fire. So as we leave you tonight, our thoughts are very much with the families and friends of those who never came home from Summerland.
do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada Weather.
Thank you. Very good evening to you. The unsettled theme continues through this week. Briefly, a little drier perhaps on Friday. However, the weekend looks unsettled. And from tomorrow, a cooler feel here in the UK. Low pressure very much in charge. High pressure making a brief reappearance, giving us a dry day on Friday. But winging in from the west for Saturday and Sunday, more showery rain and some fresh winds. Back to this evening, showers continue for a time. Gradually after midnight, the northwest will become a little drier. Some low cloud and mistiness for Pennine areas into tomorrow morning, and a shift in the wind direction, which will lend that cooler feel to the day tomorrow. Temperature-wise tonight, probably 10 or 11 Celsius for most places. On to tomorrow then. First of all, the sun will be up at 5:28. It sets at 9:05 tomorrow evening. If you're up early, there could be some sunshine around and perhaps dry too. But it's a cool northwesterly breeze and it's pulling in a few showers through the course of tomorrow morning. One or two of these rather sharp, perhaps heavy, emerging at times. Into the afternoon, maybe a little drier, but there's a fair blanket of cloud across the northwest of England and for the Isle of Man. And we're factoring in that cool breeze, not the best of days, 19 or 20 Celsius tomorrow. Looking ahead, and Friday should be a largely dry day, thanks to the reappearance of high pressure, albeit very briefly. Quite cloudy conditions, maybe a few glimmers of brightness. And then low pressure returns as we go through into the weekend. So through Saturday and Sunday, cater for showers on both days. Some fresh breezes around and temperatures are below average for the time of year. Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada Weather.